Alright, hello everyone and welcome to AEW Discussion. I'm your host at AEW enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing Dynamite, October 12, 2022 episode. And for the first time in the company's history, they ventured north of the border and had an episode in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So congrats to AEW on finally having a show in another country. Now this episode was headlined by round 3 of Bryan Danielson versus Chris Jericho, this time at the Ring of Honor, world title on the line. And also Renee Paquette is now a member of the AEW roster as a backstage personality, or just a TV personality, backstage reporter, I don't know, something like that. But either way, it's great to see her back on TV again, and yeah, she had a pretty good first night. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action, starting with Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Luchasaurus. And the big man dominated the action early and often, overpowering his former tag team partner. After the commercial, Perry was able to escape the grasp of his opponent and repeatedly avoid being put through a table at ringside, and instead put Luchasaurus through the table with a sunset flip powerbomb. Later, the match near falls ensued, with each combatant teasing victory but proving unable to put the other down. Jungle Boy would then deliver the kill switch to Luchasaurus and then apply the snare trap, but the big man escaped. Moments later, he would deliver a chokeslam from the top and Burning Hammer for the win. The match was good, certainly one of Luchasaurus' best matches as a singles competitor, and sets the feud up to continue. Perry is a proven big match competitor, so I think the real question was, could the big man hold up his end of the bargain? And the answer is yes, he can. The result was a good opener in front of a red-hot, excited crowd. Now, I am curious as to when Christian Cage will be medically cleared. Hopefully, it will be in time for Full Gear so we can get a redo and get that pay-per-view match and not have it be the BS that was the one at All Out. I mean, really, you should have just canceled the match. Would have been better off doing that. But yeah, I also wonder, too, is there going to be a rematch between these two in the interim? Yeah, so story's not quite over just yet, and again, hopefully Christian Cage is clear by Full Gear so we can get that match, Cage versus Perry at Full Gear. And then John Moxley and Hangman Page face to face. So Moxley hit the ring for a promo in which he put over the trials and tribulations of being champion and vowed to stay as champion after next week's title defense, and also took a shot at CM Punk in the process. Very well done. And then the number one contender would interrupt and cut a passionate promo. Honestly, I think that was probably one of his best, in which he admitted to having nothing left after watching his friends leave and his title reign come to an end. But despite all of it, he's still there, and he is ready for this match, and he's ready to defeat Moxley for the title. And not only is he ready to defeat Moxley for the title, but he gave his word that he would defeat Moxley for the title. Don't quite like using that in a promo segment, especially if he's not going to win. Kind of makes his words seem worthless. I feel like there might have been a better way to do it, but it's still, it's still fine. But felt like maybe could have used something different there. Nonetheless, great work from both guys here. Intense and emotional. Really, it's everything you want out of two guys prepared to lay it all on the line for the top prize in their company. Page needed this promo to reestablish himself with fans and remind the audience that he is more than just the subject of a rant from a former world champion during a media scrum. And he did just that, cutting a promo that would have some believing he actually has a chance to beat Moxley for the title. Unlikely that he does, but it would be kind of cool if he did. Best part of it all, though, is watching MJF sit in the luxury box looking down at these two guys and laughing it off, knowing that he holds the most important bargaining chip in AEW history and has the ability to cash it in whenever he wants. So yeah, discount Money in the Bank briefcase right there. Great stuff here. That should lead to big numbers for next week's main event, or at least one would hope. But yeah, the real story is Moxley versus MJF for the title. There's been some foreshadowing for that, so unfortunately it doesn't look like Page will retain, or win, which is a shame. You know, it's not a huge cloud, or doesn't cast huge doubt over a title match, but still just that subtle, and those interactions between Moxley and MJF, it's kind of like forecasting in a way, or it seems like it. And then you have a Ring of Honor World Championship match, Bryan Danielson versus Chris Jericho. And this was a grueling physical match that had Danielson rolling late before an accidental collision with the referee. Daniel Garcia would then make his way down to the ring, and at first it looked like he was going to prevent Jericho from utilizing his championship as a weapon, only for him to instead use his title as a weapon, but not on Jericho, but rather on Danielson, which set up Jericho for the win. The match was as good as you would expect from Danielson and above average for Jericho at this point. Unfortunately, what they accomplished between the ropes is secondary to the decision that Garcia reestablished his bond of Jericho, which is a waste of the weeks that were spent building him up to considerable success, and it also raises the question of why you would do such a thing and only to pull the plug by having to revert right back to the spot he was in 2 months ago. Now, there will be some who argue that the plan is still for Garcia to eventually dethrone Jericho, but if that is their case, there really isn't much of a reason to drag this story out for longer than it needs to, just to have, just for the sake of this turn. I mean, really, I'm not quite sure what they're doing with the story here, and the fact that Blackpool Combat Club is still hanging around and everything else, it really is by far the most stale story in all of wrestling too. And honestly, I have zero reason to care about any of it, zero reason to, that's just it. I don't have any reason to care about any of it too. I mean, really, Tony Khan's got to find a way to resolve this story and just end it. Okay, Garcia's back with Jericho Appreciation Society. Fine, leave him there, and I don't know, find some way to resolve Garcia turning it. I guess if you need to. I don't think you need to. I think you're better off just kind of moving on, right? Like, let's just JAS versus Blackpool Combat Club. Man, even Moxie's doing something different, man. You're telling me you can't find something else for the rest of those guys, man? It really is just, it's tough to watch. Tony Storm and Hikaru Shida versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter. Action-packed match that had Storm isolated and beaten down into a hot take. The Shida sparked a comeback. Action broke down from there for a series of near falls, including one off of Storm Zero that Hayter just narrowly broke up. With Storm and Hayter battling it out on the outside, Shida and Baker teed off on one another, which culminated with a series of roll-ups and reversals that saw Shida get the best of the Good Doctor for the hard-fought victory. Good hard-fought match that highlighted all involved. With that said, it also highlighted one issue that still exists within the women's division. Shida won, and it seems likely that she'll challenge Storm next, which is fine, as the match should be good. But as I talked about with Jericho and Garcia, why should anyone care? Granted, the issue's got a little bit bigger with the women's division, and I think one way to kind of perhaps resolve that is maybe start working on more character development and also telling actual stories. Otherwise, you're gonna keep running into the same issue and have people keep complaining about the same thing over and over again. Not that the complaints aren't justified or that people don't have a point, but I feel like AEW could show a little bit more effort. But hey, Shida versus Storm, if that is the next women's title match, like I said, should be a good match, if not great. All-Atlantic Championship match, Orange Cassidy versus Pac, and the champion dominated the action early, risking nothing than appearing to have the win on more than one occasion. When Cassidy narrowly made it back into the squared circle following a tombstone on the stage, Pac applied the brutalizer. Cassidy escaped, fired off a comeback that popped the crowd, and drew a chant of "This is awesome," which was certainly earned. Pac, his ear bloodied the hard way, reapplied the brutalizer, but Cassidy again forced a break. In late, Pac tried to use the old ring bell hammer trick, only to be stopped by Danhausen and the referee, and the distraction allowed Cassidy to recover, deliver an orange punch, and then, teased using the hammer himself, but instead, turn it over to the referee, escape a pinfall attempt, and deliver another orange punch for the win and his first title in AEW. So these guys have history. They're strong storytellers, which enabled them to build on spots from their previous matches and create a quality main event that was the best match on the show. Cassidy has always been a character that might not have needed a title, but after going 0-8 in title matches to this point, he was certainly due for one. He's one of the best performers in AEW and has more than earned his opportunity to have a run of a title. It'll be interesting to see how they book that said run of a title, but hey, he's got a title, so far so good. Credit to him and Pac for having competed against each other as much as they have without letting any of their matches feel repetitive. That is huge. Their matches feel fresh, are entertaining, and consistently highlight their character strengths and personalities. Great stuff to close out the show. So yeah, I guess big takeaways: Jericho Appreciation Saturday versus Blackpool Combat Club, still not an interesting feud. Women's division still got some issues to work through, and Orange Cassidy won his first title. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of AEW Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.